277 players with a maximum of 73 slots available to fill and an available purse of 41.1 crore rupees. The stage is set for the WPL mega auction as the Women's Premier League enters its first reset cycle, and we are here with Chatter. Anyone who watches Chatter is familiar with Nagraj Gollapudi, but we are thrilled to welcome Shashank and Sudarshanan, who are champions of our women's cricket coverage, who will lend their insight. But both of you gentlemen know very well, if it's Chatter, we start with Nagraj Gollapudi. So, Nagraj, tell us, who are the big players to watch out for at this WPL mega auction?
Complete expose. This is completely out of my comfort zone, but let's hope that what I say is not going to be derided. But um, of course, what I say is also based on quite a bit of info that I have tried to use other from franchises as sounding boards, the people there, and see what they reckon and see the pulse. I wanted to test their pulse, and what comes out is one thing is clear. I don't think we are going to see a player who's going to be breaching the 3 crore mark because only a couple of teams have a big purse and the others have very, very small purse and slots to fill. So 3 crores is probably impossible in this auction. But as far as players go, some of the hot picks or strong bids could be in the marquee list itself. I think Sophie Eccleston is one of the favorites. Then you have Deepthi, who is there in the marquee sets if you look at the numbers. Then you have, I think, Amelia Kerr would be again on top of the list. Personally, for me, I think the one player I'm looking forward to see and where she goes is India's left arm spinner Sri Charni. She is someone who has been very impressive during the World Cup, and though it was an ODI World Cup, the temperament is something that, and the age that she is, it's one thing. So yeah, these are few of the players that I am guessing Suds and Shashank are going to throw up other names we'll discuss.
Shashank?
Yeah, I mean, Nagraj's list is fairly a good one, but I think Alana King will be a massive buy, which she hasn't been so far for whatever reason. I think she showed at the World Cup what she can do, and wrist spin as a commodity in women's cricket is also kind of not as big as it is in men's cricket. So having the kind of season that she's had with the World Cup and on these kind of surfaces, I think Alana King for once will command a lot of money. And also Phoebe Litchfield. I think a lot of teams need an opener, especially you look at you look around the house. I think you've most of the sides have one solid opener, like Delhi have Shafali, RCB have Mandana. So MI will probably look for that one big opener. I mean, so UP haven't retained anyone else except Shweta Sehrawat. So openers across the board will go in for a lot of money, I feel. And Phoebe Litchfield is right up there. Georgia Wall is right up there. She's another quality batter. So I think these two among the Australians in the pack will probably command a lot of money, probably a little more than Alisa Healy.
Yeah, might I add a couple of openers to that list? One being Laura Wolfert, and the other, while she doesn't play internationals, she's led a team to a WPL final every single edition so far, Meg Lanning. So,
Yeah, Meg Lanning was top of list for me in terms of most expensive buys, just because of the pure class that she is, and also the fact that a lot of these teams need top order batters, in fact openers as well, who can like score at a pretty good rate. We've seen how good a touch she is in at the WBBL, scored a century last week. So all that kind of augurs well for Lanning to be one of the top picks. And the other player I'm keenly going to keep my eye on is Nadine de Klerk. Superb 50 overs World Cup. Recency bias almost always helps in such auctions, mega auction especially. So these are the two players I'm very much looking forward to, and I think they'll be among the top picks.
I just
yeah,
want to
recency
add one name.
bias. Go on,
Just
man.
if you don't mind, one name I missed is, and I was just looking at the WPL numbers, and there's one name that stands out in most lists. It's incredible, and that player is not going to be spoken about that well. But I do. But I think Jess Johnson, she is like incredible. She has got if I should have asked, like, I've given the answer away. I think she is in the top two or three POTMs, Player of the Match awards. She has won in WPL. Her numbers are incredible in terms of bowling in the last 10 overs, both at middle overs and she also bats. So it's clearly like she's someone who's an all-round package, but of course, Sophie Eccleston is a big name, and where Jonathan comes is later on. While Eccleston comes in the marquee set, I think just guys check which set Jonathan comes. She comes in pretty later, so
Third
people
set,
might not
third
have that
set.
third set. Yeah, so it's going to be. I want to watch out for this name for sure.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other player that I'd like to watch out for in that set later on is Georgia Wareham. She
Yeah.
doesn't nearly get the kind of credit that she deserves. I think she's shown, during her stint with RCB, the kind of a utility player that she is. She's guaranteed to bowl almost 4 overs in every game. Gun fielder, can give those cameos in the middle and towards the finishing stages of an innings. And so I think she'll definitely be one to watch out for. I will be very surprised if teams don't budget a certain amount of money beyond the marquee set just so that they can look to get Georgia Wareham and Jess Jonathan, as Naga mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think couple of important factors that we've touched upon already. And when we mention the big names, there are a couple of big names who are missing: Talia McGrath and Sophie Molyneux, both of whom were at the WPL in recent seasons. They are not in the auction list. But moving from names, yes, recency bias is a big factor. And so it is a theme that a lot of the names we heard right now from Nagraj, Sud, and Shashank were players who caught the eye at the Women's World Cup in India. But the other bit, Nagraj, and I want to go deeper in this with you, is just how different the auction dynamic can be. You said at the top that you can't see any player breaching the 3 crore mark. And it might also be a case where you might not even see too many players above 2 crore, because when you look at those purses remaining, which you can see on the screen, that's not a lot of money. There are 3 teams entering this auction with not a lot to play with, and still at least 11 players still to buy.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is going to be the talking point is going to be, and already has started among franchises, is the number of players UPW who played for UPW or UP Warriors last year in the last few seasons. You can see that in the marquee list. I think there are what Shashank and Suds could tell me how many, four, 3 to 4. So UPW
Yeah.
have RTMs. They have, I think, 4 RTMs on
Yeah.
of which they can use two on maximum two on overseas, and I think what three on the capped Indian players. So I think UPW are going to be busy in the marquee list for sure. They will be forced to in case they want to retain the players. Whether they want to match the price is going to be depending on. I mean, a player like they also need a captain, right? So they would need to kind of look at how much money they want to spend in the marquee set uh, like uh, like Shashank was saying, there are players like Wareham deep down on the list. Now, the other talking point for franchises is going to be we need to tell listeners is that the accelerated list starts from player number 68. So till player number 67 is the normal alternate sets, etc., captain, uncapped all-rounders and batters and bowlers. But it's from player number 68 to 277 teams will be able to pick up 10 players each, I think, list 10 players each, and in the accelerated lot, and followed by the unsold players joining these accelerated lot later on. So I think a lot of names, mostly Indian names, good Indian names, have been in set number 13. Check set number 13, some of the names, if you guys can read out. Those are the sets that franchises are telling me that there are players in that set that they would be very keen to look at. Now, but set number 13 is too deep. How much money is spent and how much, so which means if teams are looking for going that deep, they will also need to have a certain amount of money, but they won't have really like 2+ crores to spend on a player. So I think a lot of players will be bought between the 1 to 2 crore mark.
I think
Shashank?
talking of UP Warriors, I think one thing is kind of certain is that I don't see them buying back or using the RTM card for Alisa Healy, because I think if I remember right, her auction price was 1.7 crore. I may be off the
It
mark
was a
by a
steal,
few.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously when they bought her, you thought that it was a steal at 1.7. So if they really wanted her, I think they would have definitely tried to retain her, even though the top retention starts at 3.5. And then she's a World Cup winner. She's a captain. She's a wicket keeper. So in that sense, I think that the ceiling for her is quite high. But having said that, the fact that they've released her is potentially an indication that they're looking to start afresh under a new coach in Abhishek Nair, who takes over from John Lewis.
But is it a plausible argument? And there's so much intrigue around UP Warriors and their decision making, both in terms of the lack of retentions and also auction strategy. Is it plausible that they have perhaps surmised that the auction will end up playing out this way? You could be fairly confident that the likes of Mumbai, Delhi, and RCB were going to retain as many as they could, which they have, which meant UP had a chance of buying back a lot of the players or using the RTM card instead of a 3.5 and a 2.5, which you'd have to pay for your top two retained players. You get them at sub 2 crore at the auction. Could that be the
Yeah,
thinking here?
yeah, yeah. Definitely, that's the thinking. I mean, I think that is what the inside info also tells us, that that was the strategy that they went with. They thought that they could buy the players they want, especially at a cheaper rate, instead of trying being forced to, like you said, yes, rightly, that spend about what 3.5 plus the next player. Say player number two retention was what, 2 or 2.5.
2.5, if I'm not
2.5,
Yeah,
mistaken.
I
so
think.
that's like virtually six crores on two
That is
players, which
six,
they
yeah.
didn't want to. Yeah, and if they were definitely not confident, and everyone was like, I think eyebrows was raised when they did not retain Deepthi, who had just won India the World Cup in that sense with her all-round performance throughout the tournament. And but it's the different format. So it's, while we were talking about the recency bias, it's different formats. No doubt about it that Deepthi can be the face of UPW if they want to wish to, but they felt that if they go with this strategy, and you knew that teams like MIRCB and DC will retain the core set of players, so they won't have that much money. So these guys can afford to then look at buy players in the vicinity of 2 crores, between 1.5 and 2, and not, and then kind of buy a better balance and build a better balanced team, Scott.
Yeah, I think one of the clearer signs are probably towards that they might not bring back Deepti Sharma even if they have a chance to in the auction. Because one of the things that Nagraj touched upon was it's a different format, but also you look at their 3 years, and one of the themes in UP Warriors WPL campaigns were the batting. So the primary, I think the area of focus for UP Warriors might be purely batting, and won't be a surprise if they want to shell out a lot of money on top order batters, middle order batters, and so yeah, in terms of the focus area, I think it'll be more batting, and bowling could be a little later.
All right. When we're talking auction dynamic, I also want to go into the POV that the three teams at the bottom of this graphic will enter with. Because Nagraj, a pool of what is it, between 5.7 to 6.15 crore between MIDC and RCB, all of whom have at least 11 players to buy. So, how do those teams behave, at least in the starting phase of a mega auction?
I mean, I guess I will need help from Shashank and Suds on this in terms of the players, especially a team like MI. MI always kind of is known to scout the right kind of players. They kind of do, and they did kind of build a winning squad, right? In the last 3 years, they had like a lot of uncapped players they would want to, and this is where I think we're talking about the auction dynamics. The number of players that are there uncapped, especially or lesser known capped Indian players, are bottom of the auction, who come in the accelerated lot. That's where MI will be at par. Probably they won't be spending that much money you expect at all in the first 2 or 3. They will be very quiet. But come later on, come towards the latter half of the auction, I think MI will be very busy, and they would want to. They would be making strong bids for certain players they want to bring back. And probably this is where Shashank and Suts can tell which are those players they can look at.
Right? Let's go there, Shashank. Uncapped players.
I think someone like RCB have been very, very active in the scouting circuit over the last couple of months. Even as recently as a couple of days ago, they were at a domestic tournament, looking for players, and they've also been calling a lot of the players who they feel fit the bill, even if their performances in terms of runs or wickets on the records chart will not tell you much, but they feel that they see something in them. So they've called a bunch of such players into the auction. They've also looked fairly comprehensively into the under 19 circuit, because that is now becoming a big area of talent pool, especially with India, winning the under 19 World Cup last year, and the focus shifting towards the under 19 every 2 years. They believe that there's a lot of potential there. So someone like a VJ Joshita, for example, she's a medium pacer. She was picked straight out of the under 19 World Cup last year. She played in a handful of games and picked at base price. So I think they will look for some players straight out of the domestic route who've done really well. So Joshita is one name who apparently is injured. They were very keen on getting her as probably an uncapped buy, but she was injured and could be in a race against time. So that's probably one of the reasons why she has missed out. Else RCB could have been in a position where they retain five players. Having said that, I think they look to get Sneh Rana back into the pool. Sneh Rana is a fabulous story. She wasn't picked in the auction earlier this year, but came in as a replacement and had a wonderful season that kind of also brought her back into the ODI mix. She went on to play a very good role for India in the lower middle order, and also, with the ball at the World Cup and also in the lead up. So I think they look to get her back. And I think there's one marquee, apart from an opening batter, when you look at the spinners, there are a handful of wrist spinners that Prema Rawat, for example, did really well for RCB. She's been doing really well in the domestic circuit, so she comes into the mix. Someone like a Priya Mishra who played for UP Warriors, but again is a kind of a player who teams may not, go up to, like, maybe a crore or a crore and a half, but she'll still come into the 30-50 lakh bracket. So there are a couple of good wrist spinners coming up. So I think RCB will be looking at a lot of these domestic buys to shore up the bowling, and then revolve their team around that one gun fast bowler which they look to get, whether that is Shabnim Ismail from South Africa, who's now retired, but still a very, very strong force in international cricket. So yeah, I think they look for that one gun fast bowler. They already have Perry who can bowl a few overs. They're looking for that couple of wrist spinners in the mix. So someone like an RCB is largely looking at, beefing up their bowling stocks through the scouting route, which probably someone like a Mumbai have done so well over the last couple of years, which is why they've gone on to, win two of the three seasons that we've seen. Someone like, they've got their eye on someone like a Sanskriti Gupta, for example, who's done really well in domestic cricket. She's done well in, the few opportunities that she's had at MI. They brought in Saika Ishak, if you remember, in that first season, completely out of the blue, but really did well. And then that accelerated her journey to the India cap. Someone like a Jintimani Kalita from Assam, who did really well in that first season. So MI have taken this scouting route of, picking, strengthening their bowling and looking at domestic tournaments. And I think that's a formula that a lot of other teams will kind of slowly look to emulate going forward as well.
So, any names to add in terms of uncapped players worth keeping an eye out on?
Uh, there's Diya Yadav from Haryana. It's again one player from the Shafali Verma school of batting who can bat at the top, hit it hard. And this is her first, I think, if I'm not wrong, her first domestic season, and she's batted at a very high strike rate as well. So I'm sure a lot of teams will be keeping an eye out on her because it's your top order role, especially in a competition like WPL. Is you can let the young batter bat as freely as they can. An overseas name again, very young, a 19-year-old Devina Perrin from England. She was part of their under 19 World Cup last year. A superb batter, once again a top order. Though I'm slightly hesitant on putting a stamp on her because there are a limited number of overseas slots and you will have players with more experience. Talking about Mumbai Indians, I think a couple of players, if I may I can choose, is probably they'll have an eye on Sneh Rana, a good World Cup at home. Harmanpreet Kaur knows her pretty well, and they don't have a gun spinner in that unit. So she likes to have her spinners, one experienced bowler around whom the others can, rotate and revolve. So I think that could be one player that MI could target.
All right. So
Talking
that's
of
there's a
talking of uncapped, I think you we should also look out for someone like a Tanisha Singh from Delhi. I remember while speaking to a lot of scouts last year, before the WPL auction, Tanisha Singh and Pratika Rawal were two names that were, a lot of people spoke about. Obviously, Pratika Rawal went unsold at the auction, but you saw what she can do in international cricket, and she's built a decent body of work. So Tanisha Singh is another player from Delhi who's slightly more, enterprising. Probably not exactly orthodox, but who can get along. Probably someone in the Shefali Verma mold. So she is someone who can definitely be one of the names to be considered.
All right, lots of names discussed. We're trying to figure which way teams will go. But Nagraj, this mega auction will also be, in a way, an opportunity to see the league's own evolution and the evolution of the think tanks. And I want to know from you what that may dictate in terms of the type of player that would or could attract the most attention.
Yeah, it's a good question. It also tells you the answers will only come day after on Thursday during the auction, the kind of picks they go for. But I think teams are likely to look at in women's cricket. Once again, stand to be corrected, but I think the all rounders always have a key role to play, and a certain type of an all-rounder. It's just not a simple. There are too many all-rounders. There's a spin bowling all-rounder. There's a fast bowling all-rounder. There's a medium pace bowling all-rounder. So that's where I think one skills, two types of skill sets that I think this auction will be dominated by is one is Indian pace bowlers. The supply and demand is the demand is high, the supply is small because there are not good fit for fast bowlers as such. And that's where one name we I missed earlier in the top list is Kranti Gaur. This is
Antiga.
one player, yes, this is one player franchises I think will at least two plus or three, two to three franchises will be very keen to look at. And I think she might come in the 1.5 category probably because she has the pace and she's shown that character to kind of. And not many around, not many Indian fast bowlers around. She might command a price. There's of course Redika Singh, who I think she played for RCB right last time, so she might be like probably RCB will again look to bring her back. As far as all rounders go, I think that's where the overseas players might be looked at. A Sophie Devine, who is probably many will think is over the top, over the hill, is actually a very attractive buy if you look at it for what she does. She can bowl a medium pace, she can bowl in the power play, and she can, I think, more importantly, also bat in the power play, which is not that common. Bats at a decent strike rate. So that's where I think. Then we spoke about Nadine de Klerk earlier. That's another player. Kim Garth is one player who franchises will be looking at, I think, as a fast bowling all rounder. In the sense, or not an all rounder as such, someone who can hold the bat towards the end in pressure situation. And she showed that really well in the World Cup. Even if it's an ODI World Cup, teams are saying that, look, this is a player that who knows how to bowl on certain pitches. And they played at, I think Australia did play at DY, right? Also, the venues, while the venues will not exactly dictate terms, and to differ with the only one point I differ with Shashank when he said that extreme pace will play a part. I do not know whether the performances in overseas leagues as such will hold that much of a will have that much of an impact when it comes to extreme fast bowling or extreme means overseas fast bowling in overseas leagues in WPL. That's what I gather from what people say.
Right. So you want to jump in around who you think might be the type of player and whether you'd agree with the notion that the domestic fast bowlers, because in particular, when you look at the two teams which do have the higher purse, UP Warriors and Gujarat Giants, yes, UP had Krantigad earlier, but these are two teams who, through the last cycle, did at times suffer for a lack of domestic bowling options.
Yeah, and two types of players, fast bowlers as well as fast bowling all rounders, because Indian domestic circuit has a lot of these spinners who can bat out, batters who can bowl spin. But fast bowling, and we've seen this in the WPL for 3 years, that these are surfaces where fast bowlers will have a say, the seamers will have a say. So someone like a Pooja Vastrakar, a Kranti God, these players, these kinds of players are still those who are valued highly. The other aspect to this is UP Warriors and Gujarat Giants. They've been two sides who have had a lot of reliance on Indian bowlers to win them games. Or they, you look at those squads from the last few years. There's a Saima Thakur, there's a Meghna Singh, who were kind of the key seam bowlers in these units. Now, after 3 years, they probably will have to realize, or they would have, that you need to have one experienced fast bowler who's played at the higher level, and that's where even someone like a Lauren Bell or Chanel Henry, for that matter, could come into the
Yeah.
picture. These are players who've had experience at the higher level, yes, but also higher quality in terms of, say, the 100 or even the WCPL. So, yeah, these fast bowlers and fast bowling all rounders could be the way forward.
Oh, one name we should add is Kashvi Gautam. She, I forgot,
Hmm.
who was with UPW, right? Was she with UPW?
Gujarat Giants.
Gujarat Giants.
Gujarat
Yeah.
Giants. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So she's another bowler that both GG as well as I think UP will also be keen to look at.
All right. I'm going to do a bit of a rapid fire with all of you before we wrap proceedings. Let's start with the obvious one. Most expensive buy, you are not allowed to repeat someone else's answer, and you have to give me one name. Starting with you, Nagraj.
Oof. All right. I think I Phoebe Litchfield or Sri Charni.
Wow. Yes, of course you don't follow the rules because you make the rules on Chatter. Shashank.
I'm going Sophie Eccleston.
So,
I think it could be Meg Lanning.
all right. This time, Nagraj, my question includes two. Two big
Okay. Good.
names that UP Warriors will get, starting with Sud.
Phoebe Litchfield and maybe Meg Lanning.
Shashank.
Uh, Laura Woolward, because they need a captain, and I think they may not pick Alisa Healy, so that's one. And I think they'd look to get back Alana King.
All right. Nagraj.
So we can't repeat what others said, right? I can't repeat.
In an
Okay.
ideal world, but
Okay, fine. I'll follow the rules. And I feel Deepthi and Navgire. Or let me
all
go,
right.
actually go Navgire and Kranti. God.
All right. Okay. And one player per person. Nagraj, one player that MI will get.
Oh, am I?
Yes.
Let me think, yeah. You guys go. Straight away.
Sud, one player that RCB will get.
RCB will get someone like Kiran Navgire, just to, an explosive opening partner for Smriti Mandana. I'm thinking they'll go that route.
Shashank, one player that DC will get.
One player DC will get. That's, I mean, considering the fact that they've retained so many, it's hard to pinpoint. But I think they do well to get Sophie Devine, because of the experience she lends at the top of the order, and also the fact that she can be the perfect ally to Shafali Verma as an opener.
All right. Nagraj, I've given you time to think on MI. Now tell me one player.
Uh, Chintamani Kalita.
All right. Okay. So a return for her. Okay. Let's see how things stand. The WPL auction, so much of interest, so much intrigue. We'll see how things play out. Thank you to the crew, Shashank, Sud, Nagraj. Thank you for your time. This was Chatter.